Good morning, everybody, and a happy Thursday morning to you. As usual, we're covering a lot of content, royal family, Harry, Meghan stuff, and the next podcast. God help me. All right, let's jump in and cover it all, shall we? Let's go. We're starting off with not the British UK, but in connection with his 70th birthday, the Grand Duke of Luxembourg had some new pictures released. What a handsome guy. Next up, we have the fabulous Princess Anne. She was at the Royal Yachting Association. They're celebrating 150 years of championing the future of British sailing. So she went to visit on the 15th, which was Tuesday. There was a Youth National Championship. This is really cool. They had over 230 of the UK's most promising young sailors. They're competing in a 5-day regatta, and she met with the athletes and the volunteers and spoke to them as the next generation of racers took to the water. I just think that's absolutely fabulous. You know, she gets a kick out of this stuff, and this is why, my friend, she's the hardest working royal out there. Let's move on. Next up, we have Prince William and Prince George. They were back to watch Aston Villa face off against Paris Saint-Germain in the Championship League. Now, they were spotted in the VIP box with billionaire godfather Hugh Grosvenor, the Duke of Westminster. Remember, he's the gentleman that had that big wedding that Harry was uninvited to. William was an usher, and they just announced they're having a baby. Apparently, this was a very big game. It was very nail-biting. Apparently, in the first 11 minutes, Villa conceded, is what they're saying. Villa lost a goal to the other side, but then the other side scored, and, you know, these are nail-biting things that they do. Anyway, I'm glad they were able to go and watch a game together. It looked like they were having a great night. I myself am very glad to see that George is enjoying his spring break. All right, next up, remember, you guys, I couldn't identify this guy. Well, Hodgkin fan on Twitter did. His name is JJ Chalmers. He is a television presenter, and in April of 2024, he was a trustee of the Invictus Games Foundation. I have no idea if he still remains as one or if he quit when Harry quit. All right, let's move on. All right, let's move on now. The Daily Mail decided to visit Meghan Markle's headquarters in Hollywood at 6061 West Sunset Boulevard. Apparently, this is the address that's printed on the back of Meghan's products. And very interesting, they got there. It's a gray 3-story office building attached to a Netflix studio lot next to a sleazy-looking motel with a homeless encampment just a few hundred feet away. Am I shocked? No. There's no sign of anybody leaving or entering the building when they got there. The front door looked locked. Inside were bare shelves. So obviously this is just where she gets mail. But yeah, for somebody who claims to be elevating everything and elevating your everyday life, this is a very drab headquarters. In the meantime, Harry has spoken out saying, "I'm so happy for my wife and I fully support absolutely everything she's done and continues to do." Keep those words in your brain as we're going into the next story, because I do think he's aware of everything she's doing and he supports it. So let's cover that now. Let's move on to this. I talked about this yesterday, but I'm just going to expand on this a little bit. The more I thought about it, you realize that Meghan is making money off of clothing that was worn by the Wales children. For instance, in the pictures I showed you yesterday and that I'm about to show you, there is a dress. Here it is. Charlotte wore this dress in her 4th birthday photo that was taken by Catherine, and it was sold out immediately. Well, this dress is on Meghan's list, just in a different color. You know, when you think about it, William and Catherine do not commercialize their children. They're very careful with their brand not to make money from it. You guys know exactly what I mean. So like I showed you yesterday, people saw the pajamas and went, oh, those are the pajamas that George was wearing. So here's George getting all this attention and Charlotte getting all this attention that they didn't ask for because Meghan's decided to put up a British Designer, I don't understand why she's not using an American designer. Why is she using a British one? I think she's purposefully trying to interfere with the whale's children. And I find it interesting that Meghan is doing all of this right about the time it's being threatened that William might remove their titles. Now, people are saying that this is Meghan hinting at what Lily's going to wear for Easter. But there's a problem with that. First of all, those children have never been to church. If they went to church and back, we would know about it. Here's what I honestly think is going on, seriously. She knows that the clothing that Catherine put Charlotte in sells out very quickly. So I think she's decided to get on the gravy train, which I find interesting because this article, you guys remember this? Baby Sussex is going to be modern. Individual clothing. No, we're not going to dress them in outfits like Catherine did. We would never do something like that. But that's essentially what's going on now, it would appear. And in the meantime, you and I both know that Meghan is not really working. She's just trying to monetize her life. Here's a picture of me strolling through my garden. Here's a picture of me picking some lemons. Here's a picture of me getting some eggs from the coop. And you're supposed to love this and want to watch the ads on her Instagrams, and that's how she's going to make money. Before we move on, I want you guys to see this. It's called Sadfishing. This is an art form of endless victimhood and seeking empathy for your sad, troubled life, okay? Because what you're about to see, these next few stories, including the podcast, that's Sadfishing. Keep that in mind. People magazine, Harry and Meghan's go-to, did an article, Harry's fight for his future. And there's a deep rift. He's calling King Charles, and King Charles is not answering the phone. The article says that this is not just an appeal for Harry, it's a fight to protect Meghan and Archie and Lily, and perhaps, it says, a final chance at reconciliation with his father, because the courtroom tensions are mirroring the personal rift between Harry and Charles. Charles's advisors are directly tied to Ravik, and Harry believes that his father could fix this problem if he wanted to, and his core belief is that the removal of the official security was a calculated attempt to control him and control Meghan. I personally believe Harry has done too many drugs. I think he's paranoid. In his view, the decision revealed the lengths that the palace was willing to go, and that became his final straw. He said the realization was, quote, difficult to swallow and has deepened an already wide rift. And Harry feels that his father, who is the ceremonial head of state, could easily intervene and have his security reinstated, but the palace has denied this. Harry's also whining because William won't respond to calls or messages. Gee, I wonder why. Harry takes no responsibility for anything he did. He blames his Nazi costume when he was in his 20s on William. He insinuated that he married for love while William just married Catherine because she fit a mold and she was, good breeding stock. He talked about Camilla in the worst way after he'd been warned not to. He even told people that William was circumcised. He slammed his family, his brother, his sister-in-law, his father, his stepmother, and now he just wants everything to go back to the way it was. But that can't happen. And that to me just shows the immaturity of Harry. Harry was whining because nobody's keeping him abreast of his father's condition. Well, the reason nobody's keeping him abreast is because he's been shown to be untrustworthy. Any information that he's being given will absolutely be let out to the general public. So the royal family have shut the doors, they're not communicating, and they're not giving them any information that they can put out. You really can't blame the family for doing that, and it was fully to be expected after the way Meghan and Harry behaved. All right, let's move on. All right, here we go. Podcast number 2 dropped. I cannot pronounce this woman's name, so I'm simply going to call her the guest because I can't say her name. This was another complete flop, and I've told you before, I think a prerequisite for being on her show is you have to fawn all over her because that's basically what happened. What I'm getting from these podcasts is that, as this article said, Meghan Markle is completely detached from the business world. I've also noticed that these guests so far are people she met after she married Harry. So obviously, if she hadn't married Harry, these people wouldn't be giving her the time of day. All right, let's jump in. Now, I want you to know the first 2 minutes of that podcast were commercials for Discover and another clothing brand. Meghan starts out with her breathy voice. There are just times when being a female founder is just so hard, but we push through, we put ourselves out there. She blah, blah, blah. She then goes on about this episode is about fighting for what you believe in. Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful to see you. Wait, how long has it been? Oh, it was 2018. I was very pregnant with Archie. Meghan goes, how did you end up in that meeting with me? And the woman goes, because you're an amazing human. Yeah, there you go. If you don't fawn on her, you're not going to be a guest. So Meghan says to her, let's go back. What made you, basically? And the woman talks about her parents came to the country. They were broke. The Catholic Church took them in. And she said, I'm all about empathy and giving back. And from this, Meghan goes, well, that's just confounding considering the way you were treated and bullied. And, the girl's a victim, essentially. She's turning this poor guest into a victim. She says, you were beaten and I don't know how you could show up in love and you grew up in Chicago. And she's trying to get this woman to talk about being a victim. The girl goes, yeah, I got beat up at school and it made me realize I'm not white. She goes on about, I decided I wanted to go into politics. I just love Clinton. What the hell does any of that have to do with running a business? And I don't think she should have touched on her political affiliations. And she talks about how she ran for office and she failed. And she said, I guess I'm going to have to fail at a lot of things. And Meghan goes, yes, and that leaves room for love and growth. So this woman at 19 opened up 2 nonprofits and Meghan starts telling her what she should have done to run the thing. It's like, what? So then Meghan brings up the fact that this woman's had a miscarriage, which I don't know that woman wanted that information out, but of course she turned it to herself. I had a miscarriage and it's so hard. You have to detach and you have to let go of something that you were planning to love for a long time. And it was inevitable that Meghan is taking this woman's experience and she's turning it around and she's applying it to herself, which we knew was going to happen because Meghan's learned nothing. Now with that, the woman goes, my greatest title I really wanted was to be a mom. And Meghan pulls out a book and goes, there's this book from the UK that talks about help and it's okay to ask for help. Now at one point, Meghan goes, I sit back and wonder sometimes, am I saying the thing but not doing the thing? And I'm thinking, yeah. So 31 minutes in, I've yet to hear any advice on running a business. And then they talk about how hard it must be to work from home and parent from home. And one of her kids has the flu and one of her kids has RSV. My kids grew up with the flu and RSV. It's not that big of a deal. Cough medicine all night. Who are we kidding? She has a nanny. She has a cook. She has garden staff. She has pool staff. She has a maid. I don't know what this woman is talking about. And of course it ends with Meghan, I hope you know how much you're loved, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think while I show you how much of a fangirl this guest was. So this woman, this guest, was a British Indian, essentially. And she wanted to talk and teach people about difference and encourage social cohesion. And she's a lifelong activist. Although, you would never know all of this because Meghan keeps cutting her off with her own thoughts. Anyway, Meghan interrupts this tale with her empty nouns and her own experiences. When it breaks open, it leaves space and room for so much love, growth, and resilience, to which her guest just goes, yeah. So this woman then went on to build what has become one of the most recognized coding education initiatives in tech, Girls Who Code. They have a very impressive record, absolutely. So during the episode, Meghan tries to give CEO energy, and she does the buzzwords, vibes over viability. And she does what everybody said she was going to do. She takes the conversation back to herself over and over and over again. Construct, integrate, inflection. The truth of the matter is Meghan has learned nothing. Once again, the podcast gave no information for business women, and she talked about herself. And as far as the ratings go, I'm not following them. And the reason I'm not following them is we all know that they're being manipulated. They were manipulated last time and they're being manipulated now. Oh, it's up 5 when it truly went down 10. There is no information for females that are wanting to run a business. This is another vanity project. The title is one thing. What she's doing is something else. And it's just so boring. I'm not going to lie. I doubt I'm going to listen to any more of them. All right, you guys, you know what to do. Hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the links to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, my Amazon wish list, a link to my father's book, which is still up for sale, and a link to my second channel, as well as a physical address. For those of you who've donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.